Hey, it's Zach, the one and only, sharing the moment I lived through and the story I have learned from others. And this is the first time I'm sharing something like this. In this moment, in this medium, in this kind of honesty. This episode is not about how to live better or how to be productive or how to manage your mindset. If you learn anything from it, that's on you. I'm just here to share what happened inside me because something changed this year quietly, unexpectedly, and honestly, I didn't want to admit it at first. I used to tell myself I'm just a slow starter, and that became my identity, my explanation, my excuse, my shield. Slow starter, then suddenly fast. Slow to begin, then efficient. Like I needed the momentum to prove I could still do everything, just slightly delay. It wasn't wrong, it wasn't right, it was just me. But one day, something cracked the idea open, and I didn't expect it. To be honest, I didn't even notice the crack at first. It started like a hairline line on glass, small, invisible, until you look closer and realize the entire surface has changed shape. That was what episode 1 is for me. Not the whole story, just the first crack. For most of my adult life, my thinking pattern was very simple. Get things done, don't trouble people, try to handle it myself, keep everything moving, don't make noise, be dependable. It sounds responsible, right? But the truth is, this mindset came from a place I didn't want to look at it. There were moments where I was scared to slow down, moments where I didn't want people to see I was struggling, moments where I tried to keep everything together on outside because inside feel a bit messy. I think a lot of us feel this that way, but we rarely say it. When I look back now, I realize I wasn't a slow starter. I was a slow acceptor. I took time to accept reality, time to accept myself, time to accept emotion I didn't want to feel, time to accept that I needed to change. But when acceptance finally came, everything began moving faster. Not because I become more efficient, but because the resistance inside me softened. I didn't plan to link this to tech. It just naturally fits because this is how my mind works. You know how in coding, sometimes the logic works, but the structure is outdated. The code still runs, but deep down, it's fragile. One unexpected input and everything breaks. That was on my side. It was running, but on legacy patterns. And I didn't question it because when something still works, you don't feel urgency to change until something forces you to do. There was a moment, a very specific one, where I couldn't hide behind my old patterns anymore. I'm not going to share the full story today. It's not because I don't want to, it's because the story needs time. Some story cannot be rushed. But I will tell you this, in that moment, it felt like someone turned a mirror around and said, look. And I did, for the first time for a long time. I really looked at myself. Not the Jack that works, not the Jack that leads, not the Jack that tries to do the right thing. I looked at the Jack underneath all of that, the part that rarely spoken about. And it was uncomfortable. It was confronting. It was also strangely relieving. That moment, I will share later in series. Not now, but it was the turning point I didn't know I needed. After that moment, I didn't transform overnight. There was no dramatic breakthrough, no sudden clarity. Just little shift, tiny patches. Like I noticed my reaction more. I caught myself before shutting down. I let myself feel things instead of escaping into words. I paused before speaking. I softened when I usually harden. I opened up one layer deeper in conversations. I allowed myself to be confused without panicking. I stopped trying to prove myself in every situation. None of these were heroic, none were impressive, but they were different. And different, for me, was already something new. One thing that changed the most was how I saw myself. Before this, I saw myself like a checkbox list. Deliver works, meet expectations, be reliable, be stable, be consistent, be strong. But after the crack happened, I started seeing myself more like a timeline. A human with a story, a human with chapters, a human who grow because of mistake, not in spite of them. And when I was saw myself that way, I realized I've been living life like one long string. No wonder I feel tired. No wonder I feel stressed. No wonder I'm sometimes forget how I actually feel. This podcast isn't a teaching platform. I'm not here to be an expert or a coach or a guru. I'm here because I want to understand myself more honestly than before. And one way to understand myself is to speak the things I never say out loud. I want to document the versions of me that I usually hide. The one between the achievements, the one behind the responsibilities, the one underneath the strong front. If people can relate, good. If people don't, also okay. This is my space to explore my own mind, to refactor the parts I neglect, to notice the patterns that shape me, to acknowledge the moment that changed me. There's one story, one moment, one turning point that explains why all of this has started. I'm not sharing it today, not because I'm hiding it, but because I want to give it the space it deserves. It's a story that didn't happen lightly, a story that I'm still making peace with. But I promise, somewhere in this series, I will share it. And when I do, you will understand why my mindset had to change, why this podcast even exists, why this journey matters. If you're still listening, thank you. It means something to me more than you think. This is episode 1, not the full story, just the first crack, the beginning of a shift I didn't see coming, and maybe a way for me to understand myself better. Next week, I will share something different, not the turning point, but something that happened long before that, that shaped how I saw leadership without even realizing it. Thanks for working with me. We will continue next week.